We always got to contend with the Jagabats. We always got to contend with the Jagabats. Welcome, welcome once again to our podcast. Below the belt, who vex, vex. Who vex, vex. Welcome to our podcast, Below the Belt, our international podcast, we dare say. I beg your pardon. Our international podcast, Below the Belt. Welcome to each and every one of you. We would have it no other way, peoples. Glenn says, Mingo Burn. Good to see you, Glenn says. Good to see you, Glenn says. Thanks for the thing. Glenn says, some people can hear me business now. Glenn says, thanks for the thing. Glenn says, Bingo Birds, respect and manners. Penelope Hudson. Folks, welcome to our international podcast. Below the Belt is pace and power, we said, in 2022. We are privileged today. We're going to be joined by two fascinating, fantastic, interesting, educated, well-read young people. The Honorable Jury of Finance, the Shadow Minister for Finance, and we're going to be joined by a consultant. He is very versed in this area. He's an economist by training. Mr. Elson Lowe is going to be with us as well, and we're going to try to make sense of the foolishness we're hearing from the PPP. You all know these PPP budgets. They have been a history of big-ticket failures. You name the project. The Barbris Bridge. Jesus, take the wheel. Skeldon Sugar Factory. The Milo Falls project. You name it. Big ticket failures. Big ticket failures. Merlin DeYoung. Marcel DeOliver. Or D'Olivera. That's the pronunciation. You gotta send me a voice note. Let me hear how this name is pronounced. Dan Forda, it's good to see you. Penelope Hudson. Good to see each and every one of you. Fionn Marshall, good to see you as well, guys, wherever you're joining the program from. Welcome, welcome, folks, to our international podcast, Below the Belt, hosted from the national capital city of the oil-producing Republic of Guyana. Good to have each and every one of you on the podcast today. Folks, we tell you how we story play. We extra here. Welcome to our international podcast from the oil-producing Republic of Guyana. And we're talking today about the PPP budgets, the projects, a history of big ticket failures. You all know me, right? Guys, you're now joining us. Share the program, share the podcast, and come back. We're going to be having today Director of Finance, Elson Lowe, folks who are very versed in economics. People know what they're talking about. They're bright. More than 100-watt bulb, they're bright. This is like 6,000 watts LED. We independent on GPL power. We have our own power grid. They're bright folks. They're bright bad folks. But before we get into that discussion, you know, front page of the Trinidadian Guardian, the Trinbago Guardian newspaper. Guyanese detained. Yep, in transit woman remanded by immigration despite waiver. Threatened with deportation over one vaccine shot. Remains in custody pending second COVID test. A lot of trouble this young lady's having here in Trinidad. This freedom of movement and so on for CARICOM nationals ain't working out. And you see, this COVID pandemic is really exacerbating all of the cracks and crevices of a relationship. Whether person to person, individual to individual, even country to country, it is exacerbating it. So splashed across the Trinbago Guardian newspaper. We put it up on our page at Shirley Avery Duncan on Facebook. Guyanese detained. That's the headline. And, you know, some relatives of hers contacted us and been telling us it's real pocketory. And I wonder if you thought on them boys on this. If you thought on them boys at Foreign Affairs, because Foreign Affairs in their own pocketory, you know, Foreign Affairs locally in their own quagmire. They get in their own session there, at Foreign Affairs. But one would hope that when our nationals are involved in this manner, that Utah and them would, you know, adapt a position like if they had some turpentine in them, right? Operate with some clarity, you know, be brisk. movements. Can't got our nationals languishing someplace, being denied their human rights and all kind. And the lady has a child with her too. I don't even want to do the agony. Folks, I like traveling. But you see this going through airports, business, and going through different jurisdictions. I ain't like it. I like be up in the air looking down. But getting there, I ain't able, let us let's put a little asterisk there. So we're following this. We're gonna be talking about this some more on the program later on in the evening. In the ring, this Guyanese woman who has been detained in Trinidad, hoping to God that these guys are even alerted about this or alerted to this and that they're on top of this situation. In some other information coming across that is very, very, very relevant to our discussion today. Do you know that we have fallen two places on the corruption perception index? It's an international index that is done about the most corrupt country. We've fallen two places in 2021. We have fallen two places. People say them boys come back. And this is indicative of that. Folks, we tell you we live to be vocab in 2022. We pace and power. We could have said it is a good indication that them boys come back. No, 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 no. Sorry. It's indicative that them boys come back. We have fallen two places. The corrupt. Y'all see what happened in there with at Indigenous Affairs? What happened to she? She get charged yet? She behind bars yet? Sharon Hicks, permanent secretary there. And then we hear a lot of things happening to between the fire service and home affairs. Folks, it's confusion part in this country, Pocketory. Since them boys come in. So you'd expect, not people are surprised by this. A lot of folks were not surprised by this. And we understand that our best ratings on this corruption perception index, you got policy in pipe and smoke it now, in 2019. In 2019, Guyana was listed as the most improved country, jumping 12 points. I know some of y'all won't want to hear this, Some of y'all will not want to hear this at all. Y'all don't want to hear this. Y'all want to be like to y'all. Especially them 20s and the Jacobats. Who gonna be on the live? They gonna want to hear something else. Sorry, folks, put in your pipe and smoke it. Y'all know when them boys come back. Arms and ammunitions come back. Cocaine come back. And a whole set of other things. Well, y'all running. So we have fallen two places on the corruption perception index internationally. Right? Internationally, we have fallen two places. By the time next year, it's 4 and 5 places we are going to fall. That being said, folks, I want to welcome our guest today. Our guests, I want to welcome them to the podcast Below the Belt. We have joining us, by now they're no strangers to us. Richard Fernandez, Shadow Finance Minister in the National Assembly of Guyana. And we have also joining us the young and talented, bright Elson Lowe, economist by training. Both of them, they have studied this thing. They understand it. They understand these budgetary issues. They understand the economy. And I'm privileged to have them with us today. Folks, welcome. Tricia, Elson, welcome to our international podcast.
Good evening. Good day, sir. Good day to all your viewers. It's good to be here. We're up and going since around 7 a.m. Although we got in 3 a.m. this morning from the National Assembly sitting yesterday. So we have a very big day ahead of us. Tomorrow, we all know what's coming. We've been calling it. We are yet to be proven wrong. Shared, we're hoping that something we're wrong about so that the Guyanese people would benefit. But I doubt that we have been wrong in any prediction thus far. So it's good to be here, and let me jump right into the discussion as you're ready.
Yep. Elson, welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the bright introduction there, Sherrod. That's full of lots of energy. So
It
we
is
have to
only
bring that
fitting, sir.
energy
It's
into
only
the
fitting.
conversation now.
It is only fitting. So we got this budget reading coming up tomorrow. We know they can come and tout biggest budget ever. Every budget is a big budget, or supposed to be the biggest budget to date, because things are improving, right? And it's supposed to be the biggest budget preceding every other year. That being said, what are some of the forecast on this one? Because I think it's a budget of burdens. The Guyanese people have already had two. And the last one was themed a pathway to economic dynamism and resilience. And I'm asking every Guyanese, especially those who are in Guyana, living here, if it make a difference in their life. You know, if that budget, two budgets now, has made a difference in their life, if their lives are different in any substantial way, having the PPP in office and at the helms, and especially economically and financially, are you better off than you were 20 months ago, 25 months ago? Are you better off than you were economically? And that's a question every Guyanese should be asking themselves. That's so.
It's
Yeah, I
Sheridan, if I'm
absolutely, I absolutely. Eureka, you can take the
go
first
ahead,
go.
Ladies
Elson.
first.
Go ahead, Elson.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and that's something that I try to stress as much as possible. I saw today even an apartment being rented for $80,000 where the toilet was in the same space as the bed. And Guyanese were, of course, making the usual jokes about these types of things. But you're kind of seeing this
That's a studio
inflation.
apartment.
That's a studio apartment, but I don't know the smells, there might be
Yep, yep, yep,
some
yep,
problems
yep,
in that studio.
yep.
But that's another example of the extreme levels of inflation that we've seen over the past year. Of course, in food items, it's particularly severe. And so, people are saying that since we find oil, things have actually gotten worse, not better. And I think on the other end of that, we've had budgets since the PPP has come to office, but we've also had supplemental budgets. I think it's three supplemental budgets where they've come back to Parliament for more funds, and people are still saying things are not better. And in fact, it seems like we're on a decline, so they don't know where this money has gone. And I'm concerned that that is going to be the question that we keep asking in the future. Where has the money gone? Because as much as we may be looking to put out relief and so on, if it's not getting to those who most need it, then the question is, what is happening to this money? Now, in the budget that is coming up, we are going to see, for the first time, funds from the Natural Resources Fund actually made use of. Those funds are supposed to go towards national development priorities. I'm imagining that there's going to be a heavy focus on the gas to shore project, financing that, and so on. But we can get into why that is something that I think there's quite a bit of pessimism around, because looking at the track record of the PPP regarding big projects. I think the pessimism is very much warranted.
Yep. Agreed on all points. Trina?
Sheridan, if I'm to actually put a label to tomorrow's budget, if I dare say, I would just simply label budget as another budget for the boys. That's what we'll be seeing tomorrow. Another boys. They're going to come there tomorrow and they are going to convince the Guyanese people not important for them to do anything that is going to directly impact their kind of living. They're going to try to convince Guyanese people that it's not important for them to increase significantly wages and salaries and for them to increase the income tax threshold. They're going to come and tell the Guyanese people that they're going to provide all of these infrastructure work basically, and they're on everybody's going to benefit from it, and they're going to come and try to convince people that when they plunge the majority of the resources into these projects, that the money is going to trickle down to the working class in this country. That is what they're going to come and do tomorrow. But say what they will be doing tomorrow is putting another budget for the boys. And I want to add at this point in time, I mean, at 50 minutes to 3 this morning, we were in the National Assembly. The Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, is standing up and speaking about them bringing the Milo Falls project back this year, and that they're expecting it to be completed by before December. Shared the entire country, the world knows about the corruption that happened under that project with the PP. You spoke earlier about the Guyana ranking. on the corruption perception index, and everybody would know, everybody that ever had any interest in checking data would know that in 2013, Guyana had its highest ranking ever. We were the most corrupt ever in 2013. We were the least corrupt ever in 2019. Guess what? They came in 2020, the ending of 2020. Even at that point in time, we were still getting better on the
Yep, yep,
corruption
yep,
index.
yep.
But Gerard, these these boys don't waste no time. So although, and I'm gonna give persons the numbers. Although in 2019 we were at 40 and in 2020 at 41, mind you, the higher those number goes, the least corrupt you are. Okay, the smaller the number is, the more corrupt you are. Now in 2021, we have fallen 2 points. You know why? Because them boys back and the corruption start again. So we're going to be heading straight back to the position we were in 2013, right? In 2013 at number 27. That's where we were then. That is where we're heading once more. That is how they do things. And this is the ranking is out of 180 countries in the world. Guyana, they right now number 37. We were improving. We had improved significantly. We were commended in those reports. Guyana was lauded to be one of the most improved countries.
Yep,
Now here we are
yep.
again, already on a pathway. And these very people, when presentations are being made in the National Assembly, is shouting over, oh my gosh, y'all, and y'all was so corrupt. And last night we had this back and forth because it is impossible for me to even sit there and listen to persons shouting across that, oh, y'all so corrupt when they are ranked internationally in 2013 and had in the cabinet as the most corrupt it has ever been. And they went into office in 2020 and took this country from where we had it at its lowest. And now they are working significantly to make sure that we go back to being the most corrupt again.
Yep, 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 yep. You know,
What
you
we're
know.
looking at the budget tomorrow is going to have absolutely nothing more different than that when it comes to the Milo Falls project. And so those things reeked of so many corruption, all of their projects throughout. We talk about the cable lines and all of that, bit of nepotism and all of that. That is what they're bringing. But you know what? They're gonna walk around the country and they're gonna try to convince people that, oh, this is the right way to go. And only person that have absolutely no ability to think strategically for themselves and families are gonna buy into all of that nonsense. Because I it. I'm so proud of the Guyanese people that I'm not just talking about coalition supporters. You have some people that come on your program and they come from time to time and they like to little rude comments and so. But even them, they're seeing Sherrod, they're seeing what is going on. You know why? Because when they make their little rude comment, they have to go and they have to cook a meal for their children in their home, and they are suffering and they know it. So I'm proud of the fact that even on the PPP friendly media, when the government ministers are out and they're trying to portray such a beautiful economy, persons are calling them out. Everyone is calling them out and they're calling out the nonsense that they're trying to dish out to people right now.
So we know, for instance, that they don't have any investors for this Milo Falls project. So the Guyanese people got to shoulder the burden of the Milo Falls project, even though we know that technology has overtaken the Milo Falls project, and you can get cheaper energy than just building that hydro that project there. And we know that they're going to come and they're going to finance again on the backs of Guyanese the gas to shore project. No studies, no nothing, but they're going to finance that too, right? And this is being set up. Every independent expert who have reviewed this project said this project is problems. This gas to shore project is problems start to finish. Elson.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you observe with this gas to shore project is it seems every 2 morning they change in the project, they're changing the terms of the project, how big it will be, they're changing the costs keep going up, and every 2 morning it's a fresh idea as to what they intend to do with the project. Now, I don't know if your viewers are catching on to it, But that is starting to sound a lot like Amalia. Every 2 mornings, the cost of the project is going up. It's going higher and higher until it reaches absurd levels. That project has already doubled in cost from the time that the coalition originally had proposed it, and it's continuing to escalate. And so, these are very concerning things because we have to ask whether we're getting value for this additional spending or
Yes.
whether some of this additional spending will be siphoned off to fund whatever groups are corrupt. And so it is incredibly concerning. On just piggybacking off of one of the things that you just said there, the PPP likes to say that the coalition is corrupt. They also like to say that the coalition is broke. So I don't know, if you're stealing all this money, how you can also be broke. They got to pick. Either the coalition is not corrupt, and therefore, or the coalition has a lot of money. They can't say we're broke and corrupt. But that's the kind of nonsensical approach that the PPP love to take to these types of arguments, where they'll call you anything they can to their advantage, even though the data indicates, as we see in these corruption indices, that they are the ones who are engaged in extensive corruption. And so when we frame it this way, one of the things I find very interesting about the environment in Guyana, as opposed to many other places, is that there is a deep sense of negativity. There's a deep sense of pessimism. People don't feel optimistic that these things will work out. And that is because we have a past of big projects not working out. And of course, corruption is one of the things that is at the core of things not working out in massive infrastructure projects. Because rather than the money going towards competent companies and going towards what it should be going towards, corruption will facilitate it towards whoever is willing to go along with it. And that's really concerning. Of course, I'm not accusing the various companies that have bid for these projects of corruption. But even with the Demerara, the Harbor Bridge that they intend to build, a couple of the companies on that list have been flagged for corruption violations and similar types of violations by international organizations. So it kind of is shaping up in the same way that it is shaped up in the past. And I think as a result of this, Guyanese are very pessimistic, are very concerned, and rightfully so. So instead of us seeing a bright future where we're going to be driven forward by development, we really are it's really not clear how things will pan out in the country. And I would even go so far as to say, with the Gas to Shore project, the timeline for the completion of that project keeps getting pushed back. So Guyanese keep having to deal with blackouts, high electricity costs, and low production because of the high cost of electricity year after year. And as it gets pushed back further, that means we're going to have to deal with more blackouts, more high electricity costs as time goes on. And so this is just the first sign of many signs that things are not headed in the right direction, even with big infrastructure projects that are supposed to transform the entire economy.
We are told that past behavior is a good predictor of future behavior. We got two PPP budgets behind us thus far since everybody's come back. And we asked the question, are you better off as Guyanese? Former Finance Minister Winston Jordan had told this nation that one of the major failings on both budget is its inadequacy where dealing with COVID-19 is concerned. And that thing has come to haunt us. Look where we are with COVID. But them boys don't care. Else we went in Parliament yesterday. We went in the National Assembly, and them boys spent a whole day. They mentioned COVID once in National Assembly, and people are dying every day now from COVID-19. Every day, in the hundreds are the confirmed cases on a daily basis. But them boys didn't care. A good predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and these two budgets have not performed at all. They have thrown money like mad at the economy. The economy is moving. The economy like a stubborn donkey. He say moving. Cherry Dragon characterized it well. You can't live Cadillac life selling a donkey cat economy. This donkey ain't moving. They're beating this donkey. Throwing all kind of thing at the
Well,
donkey. It's a moving. Things tight.
I find it very ironic that they're not talking about COVID when Guyana was recently added to the CDC's highest level of risk. list, which advises people not to travel to the country. So the fact that they're not talking about COVID is deeply ironic.
But that's how they are. It's like the proverbial ostrich that buries his head in the sand. He want to deal with the problem. And we demonstrated the guys how the people deal with problems. You all see the pothole that they draw the line around. That's how they deal with problems. They go around the problems. And then when there's enough public outcry, they try to Photoshop the problem. And then when there is more than enough, then they attempt to fix. That is the three stages of how the people deal with problem solving in this country. Ignore it, go wrong it, Photoshop, and then you try to fix, if possible. And that is what they've been doing here. David Patterson, former Minister of Infrastructure, last evening spoke about some of these very same issues in the National Assembly. Some of these same issues, while they're trying to hoodwink and to bamboozle and to fool, to coerce these people to think that you're really feeling hungry. You understand me? The opposition got to think you're feeling hungry. You're really feeling hungry. You got money in your pocket. You only think you got money in your pocket. Right? This 40 billion saving from tax relief and all this nonsense. Right? This 7% increase across the board with wages and salaries, when prices in the market raising by more than 14%, when inflation probably is past 7% now, right? They want to tell you, y'all are really feeling hungry. Things are really feeling tight. It's them guys only telling y'all though. But things nice is nice time. David Patterson touched on some of these issues last night in his presentation. I want to play some of that for us and then get your reactions, Rita and Elson at the other end. Guys, for you, those of you who are now joining us, welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. We're privileged to have today the Shallow Finance Minister, Director Finance and economist by training, by profession, by practice, Elson Lowe as well. We're discussing the PPP budgets and their history of big ticket failures. That's what we're discussing today. Let's take a listen to David Patterson last night in the National Assembly, and then we're going to come back for some reactions at the other end. Here's David.
Listening to the presentation by the presenters on the government side in defending their position on this Wales Gas Ashore project. So it further confirms to me that the project needs more examination and more details to be made forward. Not one, sir, not one of the speakers there presented any credible information on the project. Not a and you and of course the people of Guyana will obviously be the judge of this, sir. Not one, sir, presented any information on this so-called the most transformative project in the history of Guyana. You would have thought that the government side would have used this opportunity to dispel any myths, any misconceptions, or what on the project. Yet, sir, they use the time, sir, to engage on personal attacks, insults, misinformation, sir. And I know I can't use this word, sir, but gross untruth, sir, untruth. And it is sad, sir, that is the state of representation that the country has in 2022. So when I speak about misrepresentation, I would, out of respect for the Minister of Natural Resources, I'll start with him, sir. With him. And one of the issues he talked about, sir, is that between 1992 and 2015, and then he spoke very, very glowingly about the country under the stewardship between 1992 and 2015. What he didn't mention, sir, between 1992 and 2015, corruption, Transparency International Corruption Perception Index had Guyana rated as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. What he did not mention, sir, between 2015 and 2020, the same agency, Transparency International, sir, was singled out Guyana as one of the top 5 most improved nations in combating corruption in the world. He didn't mention that. He didn't mention that, sir, and when the indices comes out again, sir, we will be what you call back to the future. The corrupt ones are back again. The boys are back, and the boys and girls, sorry, madam, um, don't want to single the men out. The boys are back again. Sir, sir, the honorable member, previous speaker, Minister of Natural Resources, member mentioned the Berbice Bridge. I could speak a lot about that. And he said, oh, it is one of the best um, projects. If it is such a good project, why don't you remove the order restricting them from raising the tolls? You're scared of your own friends. You can't even allow them. You can't. If it's such a good project, we put on a restriction on them to prevent them from imposing a draconian toll on Region 6 and Region 5. And it's such a good project. Ask the minister, he's up there, or his mini-me, or his mini-me, either the senior or the junior mini-me. Ask them to remove the order on the Berbice Bridge. Madam Chair, don't look wrong, it's still there. The second you do, the country will see how good a project it is. The countries will see. Sir, and then of course, sir, you spoke about Skeldon Estate. We closed Skeldon Estate. Sir, you can't close a project that never worked. That failed from get-go. How can we close something that was never even open, never even functioned, ever? And then come and say it was the AP and UFC. Sir, that project was stillborn. Bad ideas brought the entire sugar industry to its knees. The entire sugar industry to its knees. And you sit down and talk about who closed what and who closed what. If it wasn't for Skeldon, sugar would have survived longer. And that's on you. That's on the PPPC. Sir, when the first speaker, sir, spoke, honorable in there, I obviously thought, sir, that we're in a twilight zone. He spoke about GPL, sir. Well, listen to me. Under your stewardship, your very short stewardship, and it will be a short stewardship, we're experiencing the most blockouts ever. And every day, sir, the excuse become from the ridiculous to sublime. Sir, you hear every single day, sir, you hear that there was a disturbance in the transmission line, a disruption in the transmission line, and GPL are looking at this. Sir, it's not a disruption, sir. It's that incompetent people are in charge. Then, sir, the honorable minister had the temerity to say that we, the AP and UAFC government, did nothing for GPL. Sir, I don't know if it's a crime to misrepresent. You can't use certain words here, sir. Sir, so I could say to the honorable minister, right, you wouldn't know the truth even if it bit you in that particular part of your anatomy. And let me tell you, sir, for the records, under the AP and UFC, 9 generating sets. 9 generating sets, sir. And I would want you to, and I challenge all of you, the entire PPPC, and all your surrogates, to say within any 5-year period, if any government in this country has ever did put more generating sets in place, installed in this country than the AP and UFC. So
Folks, let's take it from there. Rita Elson, we were listening to
Sir,
former Minister
oh,
of Infrastructure, David Patterson.
you know, last evening, David was on fire. I could tell you the people went home very, very upset this morning. And another thing persons must understand is that the sitting of the National Assembly it usually starts at 10 a.m. Yesterday, the PPP called the City National Assembly and scheduled the start time for 2 p.m. They did that for one reason and one reason alone. They wanted to make sure that when the gas to shore motion was being debated, that persons were in their bed sleeping. So at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, those hours when we were in the National Assembly vigorously debating that
Warren,
motion,
Warren.
people were sleeping. because they know that David Patterson was going to be coming with the facts, and the coalition brought hard facts to the House, and they could not handle it. They resorted to name calling all of them from the Honorable Gail Teixeira as the House dictates that call them. All of them name calling because they can't do nothing else. How
Yep.
do you
Yep.
send statistics that come out of international bodies and institutions? They can't do that. But David did a phenomenal job because they went in there and they were talking about them going and reaching Yale on its knees, and there could not be a big level of lie that the PPP could tell ever when it comes to governance. When the coalition was in office, this country saw the best distribution of electricity ever. I can tell you, coming from Region 7, Bartica protested the PPP because they were so tired of the blackouts. They protested. They couldn't take it anymore. The coalition was in office the first time ever, a brand new power plant in region. That is what the APP and UAFC had did. And it wasn't done in Region 7 alone. As David Wright said, 9 power plants were purchased and they were throughout this country. No discrimination to any region, regardless of whether or not they were deemed to be PPP strongholds. The APN UAFC administration never once discriminated, but the PPP is back right now. They have the audacity to be calling persons out for things. It's the same people, it's the same persons working in at the administrative level, functional part of this organization at GPL there. But what is wrong? The only difference is, Sharon, you have a change in the leadership. And the change in the leadership, you see what is going on. As you call it, an accumulation of dark,
Yep.
you know,
Yep. Yep.
a scale
Yep.
shut down. That is what's going at GPL. And David made it quite clear that is pure nonsense. I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier before I cut off. When you were talking about the Milo Falls project, you mentioned something, for instance, need not just slide over. Technology and time has overtaken starting, and those things must be acknowledged. Elson is here, and Elson would know that in economics, there's a terminology we call opportunity cost. And for anyone listening that knows economics, opportunity cost is something that you must take into consideration. Economics, I like to tell people, is it's upper level from accounting and finance, because accounting and finance is the numbers, but economics actually look at things like opportunity cost. What is the next best opportunity that is being foregone? Yes, we have $200 billion to do something. Are we going to do X or are we going to do Y? Which is the best opportunity? But the PvP don't do things like that because, Sharon, you speak about it over. They don't like studies. They don't like research and those things. All they're concerned about, their research and their decision making is done on which one of these projects give us the biggest kickback. That
Yep.
is how
Yep.
they make
Yep.
their determination when they determine which project to go into. So these are things that we need to be looking at. Don't just tell me that you're coming with transformational projects. Transformational for who? Transformational for whom? Whose lives are going to be transformed when these projects are executed? These are the questions that Chinese should be asking. We don't want to be living in a country that can't afford to live in. We don't want to be in a country that we can't afford to eat in. Elson spoke about the apartment rent that is going around. That post is going around on social media right now. $80,000 a bed. The toilet is 2 feet
To-
from your
Toilet
bed.
in
The
your living
bathroom
room.
is 2 feet from the right? And that is what persons are that is the housing market in Guyana right now, because the PPP is least concerned about the rate of inflation, how it is going, because they will do everything in their power to make sure that they are comfortable. Guyanese are suffering. This is not a budget for the boys, and not a budget for the boys. I will
Yep.
come back here
Yep.
after Sharon and I'll tell you how it is going.
Great. Elson, talk to us, my brother. Talk the things. Talk the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that he mentioned the Skeldon factory in some level of detail. That US 200 million that was spent on the Skeldon factory that never worked. Because I think one of the quotes that came out of the PvP at the time is that without Skeldon, sugar is dead. and of course Sheldon never worked. So the question is, what's going on with sugar? But that's to one side. I think the lesson that comes out of it is that the PvP likes to throw huge sums of money at projects. They like to have big numbers, but these projects don't work out, or at least we haven't seen them work out. And that's why we're really concerned about the gas shore project. Even the location at Wales, which again was mentioned by former Minister Patterson there, that location is a very controversial location because it was not the ideal location which initial studies indicated. And some oil and gas, some individuals who study the expenses of these types of factories have indicated it may cost Guyana as much as US 100 million more than it would otherwise have cost us if we had located the factory in a more ideal location, because we have to get a longer pipeline, because there's more drilling, there's more dredging that has to take place on the seafloor and so on. And because it's in a more complex location where you have ships passing and so on and so forth. So that is already a loss of 100 million US, or potential loss of 100 million US that could have been spent elsewhere. Rita alluded to what we talk about in economics as your opportunity cost. So we could have located this factory in a better place and saved substantial amounts. But instead, the decisions are not being made on the basis of what is the best way to evaluate. PvP is not making these decisions on the basis of what is the best place for these things to go, what is the best metric to use, and how can we get the most out of these projects. So what you're seeing is a fundamental mismanagement, which I believe is governed by the PvP's thirst for corruption. Now, I want to pivot as well, as we're talking about electricity, to this Garden of Eden plant that they had to shut down because of a potential explosion.
Talk to us.
My question is always this: who is in charge of that, and why wasn't it managed to the level that we did not have such a worrisome, such a terrifying risk that there would be a huge explosion? This is an expensive plant. Millions are spent on this plant. And you mean to tell me it has come to the brink of exploding on us? No, this is the type of mismanagement that we're worried about when it comes to the gas shore project. Are we going to see, when the project comes online, it underperform? It has to shut down? There have to be these types of serious risks, because that is exactly what we're seeing. We've seen underperformance with Sheldon before. So even if the gas shore project comes on, will it ever actually perform the way it's supposed to perform? That's highly doubtful. And in fact, Trinidad has a gas utilization of the plant, a strong structured plan as to how they intend to use their natural gas. We don't have such a plan. Their plan is over 700 pages long and incredibly detailed as to how they want to approach, natural gas. We are saying, oh, well, we have a lot of gas. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we can do some get this, maybe make some fertilizer, maybe. These things are not just things you say off the top of your head. You have to conduct a proper study, have a proper plan, and have a proper structure. Otherwise, what you'll see is potentially the same thing that you see in that Garden of Eden, which is where, things have to shut down because maybe we didn't have enough gas, or maybe we had too much gas and we can't power all of the other things, or maybe, we haven't actually structured what is supposed to go where. And so, I'm deeply concerned by the way that the gas shore project is running. I think that it is going to be pivotal if for Guyana's developments, the direction that it goes, whether it works out or whether it is underperforming consistently. And I think that Guyanese really recognize that this is monstrously expensive. We're talking about 900 million US. We're talking about in excess of $1 billion US. These are some huge numbers. It's going to be paid for by our oil revenues. And if it doesn't work out, we'll basically have dumped hundreds, if not billions of US down the drain in the same way that we dumped enormous money down the drain with Skelda. And when you ask the question, why isn't gas moving forward? Why can't we make any progress? This is the reason. So I think we need to up the scrutiny. We need to keep that scrutiny going on this gas project. And we need to see concrete plans, because otherwise, I swear, it's going to be Garden of Eden all over again.
Yep. All valid points. all valid points. Where we heading in this country? We're supposed to be getting better. One government comes in, install, albeit they take the baton and they run, they improve, they build on the foundation. We see a whole set of firings. We see a whole set of things that cancel and I don't even understand. Now we're seeing we have fallen the corruption index because they corrupt. They corrupt. And they seem to have this propensity to want to go back to pre 2015, to those dark days when there was really an accumulation of darkness. If you ever needed a picture of it, it was that time, accumulation of darkness, those dark days, the troubles. That's where they want to take us back. But we ain't going back there. We ain't going back there, people. MB Finance.
And we're experiencing Sherrod, the resource force. Persons know it's a different terminology. The paradox of plenty, the poverty paradox. Basically, what's going on in this country right about now? Guyana is extremely rich with resources. It's a resource rich country. Oil is just an addition, and the largest addition thus far. All right. But what is happening to us right now, and this resource course is basically failure. It's the failure of governments in these countries to actually manage the resources of the countries to benefit the people of the countries. And this is what is happening in Guyana right now. The PPP government is failing to efficiently manage the resources of Guyana so that it will benefit the working class and the majority of Guyanese. That is what we're experiencing now. But the thing is, Cher, this is not just incompetence. This is a willful act. This is a willful act that is being done by the PPP administration. They intend that the wealth of this nation must not be distributed to the wider country. They intend that the wealth of this nation must only be enjoyed by a few selected persons, and that is why they're doing what they're doing right now. So everything that we've been saying, everyone is absolutely correct. But we need to understand, and I make no mistake when I say that these people know, they know that when they use money at point A instead of point B, that people are going to suffer at point B, but they don't care. They do not care how they do things. They just make very well sure that they appease their funders, if I dare say, that they still owe for
Mm-hmm.
doing what they did for them to get
Mm-hmm.
into office today.
You
They
know,
are still on that pathway of repayment to those persons, and at the same time they themselves want to be they are buying lands up left, right, and center. Third, we're going to get the information to the people, but the level of corruption that has all is already been reported as a sitting minister, it's unbelievable. They haven't been in office for 2 years as yet. These people don't care about the ordinary Guyanese. I keep saying it over. They don't care about bread and butter matters. They don't care if plantains is $300 a pound because it doesn't bother them. That is chump change.
yeah,
It doesn't bother them like that. They don't care when
yeah.
they're in their convoy with security driving up to the conference center, that they're passing children along the road begging for a couple dollars so they can buy a meal. That is the administration that we're looking at. And the facade, oh, she drive past straight and she passed them going and she passed them coming and she wouldn't stop. The people simply turn a blind eye when it comes to poverty in this country. We are going in deeper and deeper into a hole when it comes to poverty. We have persons 2 million below the poverty line. We have so much that person could have done, and persons could have consumed the basic food items when the coalition was in office. Every single year things got a little better. Every single year person's standard of living was gradually improving. But what do we have now? We have a country that is getting more corrupt since the people came into office. We have wages and salaries not going anywhere since the people came in office. We have an income tax threshold not budging since the people came in office. We have inflation on the rise since the PPP came into office. I know what we have. we have the number when it comes to the GDP showing that Guyana has been growing so much. You know what is going on, Sharon? We have been growing on paper. The country and the majority of its citizens is suffering in this country, but we are not the beneficiary of the resource. I am going to say this. I'm looking at your time, Sharon. I know you're almost out of time. I'm going to say that
Talk the things.
I expect this budget to be in the vicinity of $500 billion. They're using the oil resources.
Hmm.
Expect it
That's
to be in the
that's your
vicinity of
forecast. A 500
$500
billion
billion.
budget.
It's the only thing they can come with, shared when they're utilizing the oil resources. That's what they should be coming with if they're using the money from the oil resources. Plus, they're using monies from borrowings. Plus, they're using monies from taxation. That is what we should be expecting as a nation. I'm
But
telling people and I want persons to expect these numbers. I don't want it to come as a shock. This is the very first budget that will be utilizing monies from oil revenue. The very first. Never before was this done. So expect number tomorrow, but expect that that huge number is not going to become you. Your standard of living as the ordinary Guyanese will not change. What's going to happen is the housing market, is the cost of rentals is going to continue to increase. What's going to happen is the cost of food is going to continue to increase. And persons are going to leave their other countries and come to Guyana and live a better life than Guyanese are living in their own country because the PPP
with with we toilet in
improve the lives of Guyanese and actually accept.
we living with we toilet in we living room. Some big rent. You know,
Yeah,
that being said, part of our program this evening going to examine the real cost of living on Guyanese. And you know, it was Crabman who really and truly put it out there with clarity. It's pressure. It's pressure. You know, Papa Jacobet was out there the other day talking about the budget framework and all this kind of nonsense. And one of the things that stood out in what he said was that all these you get all these big projects, a mile and this and that and so forth. But when it comes to the cost of living on the average Guyanese, he said we realize that the cost of goods is high. The cost of living is high. We'll have to go into some communities and see how we deal with that. As just as flippant as that, you know. We have to go into some communities and see how we're going to deal with that. As just as flippant as that, it was shocking to me with that kind of admission without any kind of a comprehensive plan. Maybe that is why, you know, you talk about they talk about global um, shipping crisis and logistics problems and so forth that push up some
Yeah,
prices.
I definitely take you there, Sharon. But I think that is one way they're trying to hide from what is really going on. If
But
you look at
Elson,
what's happening with fishing,
the question for you and
yeah,
Jarita, if that is so, how come plantain that we growing up the
yeah,
road,
yeah,
fetching them kind of prices? Pressure.
yeah.
Talk to us.
And when you look at the fishing right now, fishermen are complaining they've been forced off of the most productive areas. So as a result, they're not catching as many fish, forced off by the ships that are supplying the oil exploration activities. Now, what that means is that oil is directly impacting the cost of fish because these fishermen can't produce as many fish. So the price will be higher for those who are trying to buy fish that's produced locally,
Hmm.
right? So that is an issue that has nothing to do with global shipping costs or anything like that. That is a direct impact of the oil and gas economy. And one of the things that's important for us to keep recognizing is oil is a funny man. It is very possible for standards of living to decline rather than to improve in an oil and gas economy. And when it comes to what's going on with fish, that's clear evidence. So when it comes to what's going on with rent, that's clear evidence. So citizens need to be very aware that if this big, massive budget that comes out does not address the correct areas, if we see these oil revenues mismanaged, we're going to be in some serious trouble as far as people's standard of living, as far as people's daily lives. The pressure is going to be on more and more if they don't do a good job, and we don't anticipate that they will do a good job. So it is indeed very, very concerning. And I would put it in another note as well, because I think often, some of the wealthy business owners might say, well, we're benefiting, so to hell with it. But ultimately, what is important to understand is, let's imagine Singapore had found oil. Because they have good institutions, you would have made far more in Singapore as a wealthy business person than you're going to make in Guyana, where with our poor institutions, where money is being siphoned off all the time. So even for business people, where you're making money, you're not making as much money as you would have been making if the money was being used in the correct way. We've talked about hundreds of millions of dollars that are either not being allocated correctly or we're concerned about where they're going. That money could have gone towards supporting various businesses, supporting various industries, loans to businesses, low
Yep.
interest loans to help them to expand. I think it is an incorrect argument for businesses to think that they are better off on the PPP. In fact, they are much worse off because the PPP is not managing resources well. So at the top as well as on the bottom, you're seeing a real pressure play out, and we're going to continue to see that kind of pressure.
Nutrition final thoughts as we wrap up.
We time and time again we come on the program when we talk about the corruption in the PPP. We talk about their mismanagement, and we try to break it down to the guy people that everything that they're experiencing, make no mistake, it's a direct result of the policies being implemented by the PPP or the lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
persons have been listening, and persons have been understanding very, very clearly what we're saying. Tomorrow, I encourage persons to keep following our pages. I encourage persons to join the presentation of the budget, and I can tell people Ashley Singh is going to tomorrow. Make no mistake, and he is going to try to baffle persons with BS in National Assembly. He's going to try to present a budget very attractive to the people of this country. But beneath all of that, like Sher, you often say that we look at the fine print, we look at where it actually matters. It's easy for anyone to go and say, this is going to benefit you, but it's very difficult for persons to actually make something be attractive when it is absolutely not attractive. What we're going to see tomorrow in the National Assembly is a budget that persons are going to be feeling the impact of throughout the course of this year. What we're going to be hearing in National Assembly is that basically the working class of this country have another year to struggle for
Yep.
survival for
Yep.
themselves and
Yep.
their families. That is what is going to go on. This is not a bud. This is for the entire year. This is 2022 budget. So whatever is said there tomorrow is going to be felt for the rest of the year. And persons need to understand that we will be breaking it down. Sharon, I know that you're gonna have
Yep.
another
We're gonna
program
be on it
coming on what we're tomorrow.
we're gonna be on it
But
like white on
I just
bread. We're gonna be on it. And I've
well
I've I've been reading this fantastic book by economist Paul Krugman. It's titled "Arguing with Zombies: Economics, Politics, and the Fight for a Better Future." Paul Krugman writes for the New York Times. Fascinating book. I hope bookstores like Austin's bookstore might have copies of it. Arguing with Zombies: Economics, Politics, and the Fight for a Better Future. Folks, we can start a book club right here because we've been talking about reading and expanding and growing pace and power in 2022. We don't just want to come and have a nice time. We must be moved to action. We must get better as a result. And one of the things Paul Krugman talked about in this book, it reminds me a lot of that when I think about PPP and their budgets, listening and going through in my own mind the last two budget cycles we had. Now we're in a third one. Here is Paul Krugman talking about the stimulus tragedy in 2008 with Obama and the economic crash that the U.S. had. He says that the overall narrative of the stimulus is tragic. Paul Krugman, renowned economist, the overall narrative of the stimulus is tragic. A policy initiative that was good, but not good enough, ended up being seen as a failure, and it set the stage for an immensely destructive wrong turn. And it reminds me so much of these PPP budgets. All this money they're flinging about the place seems like a good initiative, but ends up being not good enough and a failure and setting the stage for an immensely destructive wrong turn. And that's where we are in this country. You see all of this madness here with the natural resource fund and how they go about rigging that system to make sure they people in so only they make the decisions where the spending of that money is concerned. And this can be a very divisive budget when you see what is allocated where nationally and geographically. Folks, we're in for a very, as Paul Krugman said it, immensely destructive wrong term. Jurita and Elson, I'll give you a final thought before we wrap up. We'll be continuing this discussion on this budget in the ring tonight. Jurita and Nelson.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sheriff. What I would say is, and I want citizens 100% to pay attention to this in the budget going forward. Really, what we have to ask ourselves in terms of our national development is, are we striking the right balance? Because I think what is incredibly concerning is that there's a lot of focus on large infrastructure projects, which, yes, are important. But in the short term, there's not enough focus on the standards of living that we have in the country and the sacrifices that ordinary people who don't have huge salaries, who don't have access to huge monies to kind of hold them up, are having to make. And so the budget needs to strike the right balance. It cannot be a business as usual budget where we just ignore these types of problems and continue on as if nothing has happened while people are punishing out in the streets. That is, I think, the real concern that we face. And I'm saddened by the expectation that we're not going to see a budget that appropriately addresses these things, that appropriately increases production and capacity in the local market to bring down food costs, that appropriately addresses the rising cost of housing to ensure that the number of houses, the number of apartments, and so on, exceeds this increase in demand for housing. A budget that does not address things like the persistent increase in the price of fish and so on and so forth. So we're going to scrutinize this budget. We're going to pay close attention. But I think that citizens themselves will be paying close attention to what is going on, if only from the sense of trying to understand if this year will be better than the last. And it really would be sad if we continue down a path under the PPP where each year is not better than the last, or each year is in fact worse than the last. Again, it is very possible for things to get worse rather than better if oil revenues are not managed correctly. We are seeing the highest period of growth in Guyana's history, where the economy is again going to jump forward. Are you jumping forward in your life? Are you living a better life? Or are you living a worse life? And whose fault is that? Those are the questions that I want citizens to have at the back of their mind as we head into yet another budget period.
Thank you, Elson. Sharita? Sharita?
Yeah, Cheryl, thank you for having me once again on this program. One of the things that a final thought I actually want to leave with persons is when it comes to one that speaks of equity versus equality. This is something that we spoke about before in the National Assembly, and I want to bring it up because I rather suspect that the budget is going to talk about giving equal opportunities, right? Um, I I want persons to understand when we talk about equal opportunity. I think Charles Ramsden was a shining example in the National Assembly, came and said he gives $10 million to each ground, right? Regardless of the needs of each ground. He didn't care if one ground was at 99% and one was at 15%. He gave $10 million to all of them. And that is what happens when the government goes out with these statements of equality. It sounds good, but when you have a country like Guyana and you have a significant part of our population that is living poor, that is struggling. We want to hear about equitable distribution of resources. We want more to be given to persons that have less. That is the only way that you are going to narrow that gap between the poor and the rich in the country. Do not expect that we have any intention to actually address that, but those are things that I am extremely passionate about, and I know the coalition was very passionate about addressing issues of such. The PPP will not be doing things like that. We will be looking on tomorrow at the budget. We will be cutting through all of the nonsense talk, all the political gaff, all the nice words, and we'll be looking at raw numbers moving forward. And again, as I leave, I encourage persons actually pay attention to the process. Don't just come and listen to us. Listen to all sides. Listen to the amount of nonsense that certain ministers and governments stands up in the National Assembly and say with a straight face. This is what I encourage persons to do, and I encourage persons to take it out throughout the interrogation of these estimates, because we will be asking all the right questions. We will be showing you that the government have absolutely no ability to answer questions as to how they're going your money, because this money is not a PPP money. And I think that's my closing statement. The budget is not the PPP money. The budget is the PPP telling you how they intend to spend your money, how they will be spending your money, you, the people of Guyana. That is what the budget is. And never forget that. So this is not a budget where the PPP is coming and gifting the Guyanese people some things with money they got from God knows where. This is a budget. The budget comes with the government of the day that is in office actually coming and telling you that, you know what, we're taking your monies, we're taking the taxpayers' dollars, we're taking the money from the resources of the country, and we're taking those revenues, and this is how we are going to spend it. So if they come and they say to you that they're spending it in a way that does not benefit you, then you should be furious. And I expect the Guyanese people to show nothing but fury if a budget comes to the house tomorrow that does not benefit them. I'll close on that.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, guys. That's our program for today. Thank you so much to each and every one. If guys, we can't do this program without you. And we always encourage you to come on board and be a partner of this program. Own a piece of it. When you partner with us, you do it. You do that. And whether it's financial or otherwise, you guys are here with us day after day. You're partners in this program. You're partners with us, and we couldn't ask for better people than you guys. We encourage those of you who can to come on board and partner with us. Help us to continue to grow from strength to strength, people. It takes something to do these programs, believe it or not. It takes something to do below the belt. It takes something to do to produce in the ring, and to build out our entity credible sources, providing more information with you throughout the day, folks, because we know that you grow, that you make better decisions if you have the relevant information. If you have good information, guys, you make better decisions, and we want to be part of that process with you. We have the Cash App available now. It's the dollar symbol, dollar sign in the ring 592. We are at that end. That is our PayPal. That's our in the ring. That's our Cash App handle, the dollar sign, dollar symbol in the ring 592. That's our Cash App handle. We're available via PayPal as well. Our PayPal email is in the ring 592 at gmail.com. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. And incidentally, that is our Zelle email as well. Our Zelle email in the ring 592 at gmail.com. Both Zelle and PayPal We're available via MMG. We MMG number 627-6963, 627-6963, and we're available via MoneyGram and Western Union as well. If you need any guidance on any of those platforms, you can WhatsApp us at that MMG number 627-6963, 627-6963. Thanks for being part of our podcast, guys. We'll leave it there until we meet again in the ring tonight at 8. Thanks for joining us, Dan Gravesandi, Nayan, is it Rudra? Diane Gravesandi, Roxanne Estrado. Good to see all of you. Anam Prasad, Rita Singh. Good to have you guys on the podcast. Until this evening, thanks for joining us. Below the belt, who vex, lose. Who vex, vex. Stay safe, guys. Stay safe. I said stay safe. Share the live stream and smash that emoji button as well. Stay safe, guys. Stay